Hi, I'm Kelly Patrick, and this is the Resilient Grove. This is our gathering place for honest conversations about healing, resilience, and the courage it takes to grow through life's hardest seasons. Let's take a moment before we begin. I invite you all to join us. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Make yourself comfortable, and let's get started. I'm here with Heather. You are a kindred spirit. You are the PT to my OT, and you are also a movement expert and passionate about helping people reconnect with their bodies.
Absolutely.
That's right. Okay, Heather. Well, let's get started with your story. Your PT, your AT, and your yoga.
Yes.
So let's start with that. What's your journey into all of that?
Well, I'm an athletic trainer, so got my bachelor's in athletic training.
So that was first?
That was first.
Okay.
And I honestly, I'm only a PTA, so I'm just an assistant, but it scared me for the chemistry classes and the physics and all that, so I'm like, I can't do it.
Which is why I chose OT, because
Really?
I couldn't do the chemistry and the physics.
Okay,
Yes.
So that's why I chose athletic training.
Okay.
And also, I was an athlete. I played basketball, and I, track in high school. I played basketball in college, so I wanted to stay active and stay with athletics.
So at that time, what was your dream job? Like, what did you want to do? Work with athletes?
Yes, I really thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer in a high school setting. I didn't know. I don't know. I was happy with it, but I kind of wasn't even at the time. I'm like, I'm going to college, I'm playing sports, and I've got to get a degree, right? Mm-hmm. So, I knew I wanted to stay active, and I wanted to stay in sports because I figured I would have kids someday, and they would be, athletes as well. Mm-hmm. But then I had kids, and the schedule of an athletic trainer is awful for raising a family because it's, nights and weekends, mm-hmm. and you're, sporting events and practices, and you work some days as well in a clinic, but, you're away when your kids are home, especially when they're little. So that's when I decided to go to be a physical therapist assistant. And the hospital that I was actually working through actually made me quit my job as an athletic trainer. So I quit for 2 years, went back to school, and now I'm a PTA. So,
and then I know there was a gap between getting a PTA and then going into yoga training. So what was that journey for you? Like, what made you then decide to go into yoga?
Well, I had started doing hot yoga. That was the popular thing. Like when I was right after college, no kids, whatever. So I would go do hot yoga on Saturdays because and I loved how it made me feel, like that drenching sweat that just kind of cleansed your body and made me feel strong. And, I just liked it. But then, family happened and kind of flew off my radar for a little bit. But then, I kind of got back into it a little bit, but very different. I started coming here and I started going to different places just to try it out. And that's when I really realized how it connected my mind and my body at the same time. You have kids, you have all this stress and being married. And
so do you credit yoga? Do you credit where you were in life? What do you credit the difference between the first time you were doing yoga and then the second time?
I would say life, a little bit of maturity, going through things, mm-hmm. just what stuff that happens. So was it something that snuck up on you, or you went with the intention of you wanted to go deeper, or did it was like you just got back into yoga and then all of a sudden you realized oh wow, this is actually helping me in different ways? I think I did have a little bit of an intent at first. I didn't realize, I hadn't really started to study or anything like that. I just, you hear things and I remembered the connection, how I felt the first time. And I'm like, I know there has to be more to this.
I like that.
And,
I like that. So an intent with not knowing what you would find.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So it led me so much deeper.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's rewind a second. What is the difference, and personally I don't know either, the difference between PT and AT?
So, physical therapy, it's just, you're able, with a degree, you're able to work in a clinic granted, athletic trainers are too, but they aren't accredited by the state the same. So they don't have, it's weird because.
So athletic trainers are specifically with athletes?
Yes, and they can work in outpatient clinics, but they don't bill the same. So it has to do with insurance companies and the coverage and their education.
Is it the same type of like competitive field as PT and OT is?
No, it's harder.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I know when I went to PTA school, there was a waiting list to get in. There's so many people. But when I went to be an athletic trainer, you had to go through 800 hours of, clinical work in college. You had to do clinicals outside at a different high school. You had to pass, tests in college to become a student athletic trainer.
Oh, wow.
And then when you graduate, you have to take a 3-part test, verbal, and then
much different than PT and OT.
Yeah.
Well, at least when I took OT. Now it's completely different.
Right.
All right. So we both share a love of helping people, especially older people.
Yes.
But not only that, but just help people move, understand their bodies, like what you said earlier, making that connection between your mind and your body. So what is your philosophy as for movement as medicine?
I honestly feel like movement is the most powerful form of medicine that we have. And it's not about, obviously I'm biased to yoga now, but it's not about exercise, it's not about fitness, it's just about connecting with your body and realizing it has, like leaps and bounds. It can do whatever, you want it to. You find your strength, you find your balance, and it creates a medium within you.
So what do you think is the reason why a lot of people don't move?
I think they're scared. I think that, something hurts them, and a lot of times people say, just sit and rest. Just rest. You'll be better if you rest. And
don't move it.
Right, right. And I said, oh, heck no, you need to move. I know it hurts, but.
So is it that conditioned learning that nobody knew how to handle it, so you were just, you just better sit down and rest?
Yes.
And so nobody really ever looked at like, oh, well, there's another way? There's an alternative to that?
Old school philosophy.
Yeah, okay.
Since we work with the older generation.
Makes sense.
And even the 80, 90, 70 through 90 now, their children, are still 50 to
40 to 50, yes, I see that the same, yeah.
And so if you've never experienced just movement, just stretching, just like any kind, walking, you don't even have to walk. Move in your chair.
I'll say in the OT jobs I've had, in the stretch lab job I had, and even in yoga sometimes, movement is the hardest thing for me to get people to understand.
Absolutely.
Movement, they think I walk, I run, I take the dog for a walk. Yes, but that you're still in the same plane. You're not moving your body in the way it's supposed to be moving. Right,
and a little bit movement, creates space for more movement.
Yeah.
And it builds on each other, and they don't realize that.
Yeah.
It is, it's not no pain, no gain. I never say that.
I don't either.
I hate that phrase.
I do too. I really do too.
But
so glad to hear you say that.
You just have to move. It gets your joints. It helps, and they don't see that the way that we've learned.
The fear blocks them from seeing that for sure.
Fear is crazy what it does to you.
Yeah.
In so many levels.
Building on what you said earlier about movement is creating more space. Let's go deeper. So movement does, yes, create more space within your body, but it also creates more space in your mind, emotionally, mentally, too. Elaborate on that.
Absolutely. I just wish people that would realize how much your physical and your emotional or mental states and healing are intertwined. Our bodies hold trauma, they hold emotions, they hold stress, they hold everything. And if we allow our bodies to move, to breathe, to, release some of these things, not only does it create space in our physical bodies, but it also creates space in our mental or emotional, in our heads. Vice versa, same thing. If we, emotionally and mentally create space by journaling or, just practice of letting go, deep breathing, simple things, it creates space for the physical. So
it does. It gives you motivation. You want to move more.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's so important to nurture both physical and, I would say, emotional.
And understand, not only nurture, but understand that they're all intertwined.
Absolutely.
And that the reason why you may not be moving is because you're afraid and you're anxious.
Yes.
Or when you start journaling and get out some of that anxiety, you start realizing, oh, I want to move more. I want to walk. I want to get this out.
Right. And that's the thing too. Sometimes people think that they have to start with the physical part. And if you're blocked physically, maybe you just need to get it out.
Yeah.
Especially now I'm alone, I don't have a lot of people. I mean, I have friends and people to talk to, but there's not that someone there to just vent to. So you just kind of keep it bottled in. So maybe you need to journal. Maybe you just need you can talk and, listen to yourself talk and then listen to it, but you're letting it out. So, you have to start somewhere.
And you had to, for me, I feel like I had to understand that the connection between why I wasn't moving was because of the weight of the emotions.
Absolutely.
And I had to sort through the weight of the emotions, and then once I started doing that, I wanted to move more. And so then I realized, obviously it was all, even though I knew it, I had to feel it.
Yes.
And then I was able to understand it.
Right.
So what's one, on somebody who might be in that state of mind, what is one simple but yet effective movement that someone can do to just get started, no matter what age they are?
Right. Any type of stretch. And I would say something that opens.
Yeah.
Because we tend to sleep like this.
And even when we're sitting.
We sit like that. Today, computers, even reading, you're constantly hunched.
Yeah.
So, they say move every hour. Well, I don't even care if you don't stand up. I mean, it's important, but even if you just sit up straight.
Yeah, stretch your arms over your head. Yeah, anything.
And, it creates space in your lungs, in your shoulders, your heart space, to be able to breathe and everything. And that is simple.
So the opening, something opening.
Yes,
opening your chest, opening your hips, opening something.
Yep.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so we both share a love of working with older people, and that is something in the therapy world is you have a niche. Where there's some people who just love working with children. I could never do that. And there's some people who love working with older people like us, and there's people that work with children would never want to do that. So our niche is the older people. What drew you to that?
I love their resilience. And I love we don't think that they can adapt, but I believe, and you probably agree with me, they might not like it, but they have the biggest capacity to adapt. They need to move into an assisted living from their home.
Yeah.
They hate it.
Yeah.
But they get there and they realize it might not be as bad as they think it is. And
might even be better.
Right, and they adapt.
Yeah.
And also their ingenuity. They maybe they are still in the home and they can't do something. A lot of them.
Oh, they create their own ways to do it.
Out.
Yes, yeah.
It might not be safe.
Yeah.
It might not be something that the PT or the OT would recommend.
Yeah.
But they figure it out
so
they can succeed in their home.
I like that. So on that note, do you have any memorable patients or stories?
I have a lot. I think all of the people that I've worked with have taught me something. Their stories are amazing.
And that's the reason why I have gravitated to older people, is because of I never really looked at their resilience, but now that you bring that up, yes, they are. Because they were, of that generation that we were working with, were different times than now. They literally had no refrigerators, no running water sometimes. And, that's resilience, like learning how to cope with none of those necessities, right? But it was the stories.
Yes.
The wisdom that they had, and not all of them, but there was a lot that were just, I feel like for me, placed in my life as patients to help me. Not only was I there to help them, but they were also there to help me. I needed that in my life. Yes. I needed that older wisdom.
Right. I had a 94-year-old. She was this little petite thing. Well, she still is. Love her to death. But until she was 93, she was still working at a law firm, doing all their taxes for them. And I don't mean TurboTax. She was handwriting.
At 93?
At 93. She owns several properties. She rents out these properties. She gets them fixed. She on her own. Her daughter's in California, all by herself. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't believe it. She's taught me. I'm like, do you have a reference for if I need something fixed? So, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they love giving that wisdom to you. They love helping you because, you know, they've like, I don't know.
They want to be heard too.
Yes, absolutely.
They do. And that's another thing working with older people is that, you know, the society that we have, you know, when you're younger, that you don't know anything, and when you're older, you don't know anything. It's all about the middle age, right? Mm-hmm. But both ages know. I mean, I look at my kids for wisdom, you know, that they have. But the same thing for the older people. You know, our generation just want to discard the older people.
Absolutely.
But like you said, they're resilient, they're adaptable, they have the best stories, the best wisdom, and they just want to be heard just like we all do.
And that's one thing that really, really bothers me, because, you know, they have gray hair, so they must not know what they're talking about. They have gray hair, so their memory must be going, or, you know, they need to talk to the other person, not directly, you know, even doctors. They'll talk to the caregiver, they'll talk to the family member.
And not to the patient.
And not to the patient, because they think they're too old to understand.
Yeah. Older people just wanting to be heard. There's obviously a gap in the healthcare system between what people need and what is offered, especially with the older adults. How do you feel like we could fill that gap and truly help the older people the way they need it?
So I feel that the gap is that they can't really receive movement programs in their home. I think, you know, they have silver sneakers out there, but silver sneakers requires you to go to a gym, to go to a place, to
even the
be
PT
active.
Outpatient. You have to go somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a computer, you know, there's free stuff on the computer, which is great, but how many people even, you know, I think we
can they even hear it?
Right.
Yeah.
And we have probably, maybe 3 more generations before we get to
technology, who understand technology.
So they don't want to use a computer. So I really feel like, and I, you know, have been working with people where we go out into the home and, you know, we kind of bridge that gap where physical therapy, you know, they don't meet the criteria for physical therapy in the home, but yet, you know,
they still need those services.
They still need it, and they want to stay active. They want to move, you know, and maybe we just maintain what they have, but more than likely we, you know, build on what they already have.
So on that note, you were a vendor at the health and wellness event, and you're trying to, you know, launch your program.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about that?
I worked actually for a small company that did the same thing, but I felt like maybe that I could go out on my own and do it. So
your services are a lot different than what what we came from.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because
so what's the name of it?
Well, my name is Heather's Anahata Holistics is my LLC.
Okay.
And I, because of all of my background, I mean, yoga, stretching, athletic training, so I, you know, weightlifting, but, you know, appropriate.
Isn't it kind of nice to finally be at the stage of life to have so many jobs, so many experiences? We can all wrap it up in one now, and then we just have to now like find the people who need us.
Right. Well, at first people are like, well, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? You're doing so many things, but yet they all are connected.
They are connected,
And now,
I had people telling me the same thing.
Yeah, and now you find your niche of who you want to help.
Yeah.
And you can put it all together at their level, and they can benefit
So
from
basically, the whole world of being trauma-informed is meeting them where they're at.
Yes.
And that's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You're going into their homes, you're meeting them where they're at, helping them figure out what they need, and then go from there.
Providing that for them.
Yeah.
Based on, you know, what they want.
What they want and what they need. Yeah. Because sometimes they don't even realize what they need.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. You ready to shift gears?
I am.
Okay. So we're going to shift now to personal and go a little bit deeper. And we share a lot of parallels with this as well. Let's talk about rebuilding after narcissistic relationships. And the understanding that trauma bonds can feel like real love in the moment, where it blinds you to what's really happening. And sometimes you're in it and you don't even realize how you got there, how long it took. Now, how the hell do you get out?
Right.
So where do we start with that one? Let's just start with that. How do you recognize that you're in a narcissistic relationship?
Well, let me just start by love. What is love? I think love is something different to everyone. And I feel like I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, I came from, my mom and dad were divorced. My mom was remarried once. My dad was remarried 5 times. And each of those, as I, got older and went through it, I'm like, I see that there's some kind of love here, but I didn't feel like it was the love that should be. And then my kids, I have 2 boys. And I know I love them, and I know that, I loved my ex-husband at the time. But, your kids love, and, I would go to the ends of the earth for them. What I went through made me, doubt some of that. So I've kind of re-established what I think.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more later, yeah.
Type of love should be. But a relationship's different. And I think, I'm still figuring that out. But that being said, going through what I went through, I was walking on eggshells like 95% of the time.
Let's clarify what that really means. And it's a fear of just talking.
Yes.
A fear of just saying what you feel, saying what you think, saying what's really happening. And, you want to just keep the peace. Don't ruffle the feathers. You don't want to make them angry. You don't want to, set them off.
That's it. He says, or they say, we need to talk about everything. It's between you and me.
Yeah.
We can work it out.
Yeah.
But then when you bring something up,
they don't want to talk about it.
No, and it all gets turned around on you. It's not their problem at all, and it's never a conversation.
Yeah.
So you just don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. And if you do say something and then you're like tiptoeing around because you don't want, to bring the same thing back up, you don't want to stir the pot anymore.
Yeah.
And then,
so in this relationship that you're referencing, you started talking to a friend about what you were experiencing.
Right.
And you had a conversation with that friend that kind of woke you up. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So
you were still in that relationship at the time, yeah.
Yeah, and the highs, the other things that I realized, there were so many highs and lows. It was like a roller coaster. Like the highs were okay. The highs weren't even like magnificent, like something to write home about. But the lows were emotionally and mentally awful. And it started to be like the hills were steeper, but the valleys got really long. So the lows, were really bad. And, I said...
So you no longer were experiencing the highs and the lows. It was just mostly the lows.
Of lows.
Yeah, right.
And, I'm like, this can't be right. This can't be love, because another thing is love. Someone's supposed to love you for who you are and, everything about you, or they say they do. But then they go, when they have, their little tantrums, is what I called it, because, it wasn't a conversation.
Yeah.
When it starts to be a put down, when somebody tells you you're worthless, when somebody tells you you'll never amount to anything, when somebody tells you that, you're a piece of shit and that, you'll never amount to anything. I'm like, this isn't right. So that's when I really started to reach out, to my friend on the DL, mind you, because, I had to find a way to ask these questions, because I knew I would get into trouble, or it would be a big fight if he knew.
So what did this friend tell you that kind of started the process of you waking up?
Well, she's a counselor, and she's like, no, that's not normal. It's not okay. And she started going through,
So for you in that moment, you just needed validated that what you felt was real,
right,
and okay and normal,
right?
Yeah, okay.
And she did use clinical terms, like she used gaslighting, and she used love bombing, and she used
and those terms are important, to be honest with you. So gaslighting, trauma bonding, love bombing,
shaming,
those are all tactics that these people will use to try to manipulate.
Blame shifting. Yeah. So she used those words, but yet she would explain them to me.
Okay.
And it was like cookie cutter.
I could imagine, yeah. And the first time I heard gaslighting, I was actually working as a therapist, and I was taking a break with this patient, and I typed into Google, why does my ex-husband do this? And then gaslighting came up, and I started reading about it. I can't even tell you. I can tell you exactly where I was in that moment, in that nursing home.
Yeah.
The amount of relief it felt to just have a word and then to have a definition, and then to have experiences, and just people, on Reddit and anywhere you could read about it. It was just, that was everything for me at that time in my life. It was everything.
Well, and that's really the first time the word or the label narcissist came into
narcissism.
my
Let's talk about that.
vocabulary. I mean, I had heard it, but I really didn't understand it, and I didn't look into it because I'm like, it sounds terrible. That can't be what I'm going through. But sure shit, and I started looking into it after she, told me that. Yeah.
So naming all of those personality traits and behavior traits was very important for me, as for you. Let's talk about the red flags. What do you wish you would have seen? I don't even want to say that, because I understand that, we have to move through the process. But now looking back, what are those red flags that you missed?
The love bombing early.
Yeah.
When I first met him, and we were just friends, met at a rec center, but right away, it was like, you're perfect, everything you do is amazing, I can't believe, we have so much in common, and you can, in my situation, you could help me, and I can't believe you completely understood, or, you seem to understand what I've gone through.
So you felt so needed, so seen, so heard,
absolutely,
so appreciated, so respected, and then to use all of that, to flip it around, and then to blame you for being that way.
Right.
Then you're worthless, you're nobody, you're a peon, you're all of those things, right? But at one point you were perfect.
Exactly.
Huh.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, the red flag, let's see.
Mine was the anger.
Anger?
The anger for me was very early on, but I was only 21. I came from an angry household, so it was I just kind of expected that's just what it's supposed to be, even though in me knew that wasn't right. It was just comfortable, right? So I just tolerated that up and down of the anger. So anger was a red flag for me.
There wasn't a whole lot of anger in the very beginning for me, because we honestly were just friends in the beginning. He was helping me out. I was in a situation where
needed help.
I was going through a divorce, and the housing market was awful. I needed a place to stay, and and it was a perfect situation. Imagine that. So there wasn't a whole lot of anger.
Do you feel like he seized on that opportunity?
Yes.
On your vulnerability? Yes.
Absolutely.
So did mine. Yeah.
And I should have picked up on it, but another one was his sense of entitlement and the ego out the roof. But, I saw it as confidence.
That's how he portrayed it to me.
Yes.
He's just confident. He's just a confident man.
Right. And I was working on my confidence. I was at the gym.
Same.
I was getting into shape. I was starting to feel good. And I'm like, oh, this is an extra set or extra feeling of confidence that, can help me.
So it's that overinflated ego that they created for themselves. We believe it for a bit. And then we start to see, wait, that's not really what's happening.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, so on that note, let's talk about how all of that affected the relationship that you have with not only your friends, but your family, your children. So
this is a hard one.
Yeah.
So with my kids, it completely has, well, I won't say completely, it has separated us.
Yeah.
He had 2 children, and they want nothing to do with him. And I feel like that he wanted me to be in the same situation.
And on that note, that's another trait of all of that is isolation, is they want you all them to themselves. And so they want you to cut ties with anybody because that's just their tactic too.
Right. So,
and I want to say also too is that's their defense mechanism, trying to get love and fill them where they have their void. And so they think if they remove everybody else and they just have you to themselves, then they'll feel better.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't always work.
In their small little world.
Right.
Because that was, part of the communication thing and the control thing too. Our relationships should stay
should be just us. Yeah, right. And nobody else needs to know what's going on with us.
No, yeah.
So on that note, he kept you isolated.
He did.
Kept you away from your children.
Well, it wasn't keeping them away from me at first. It was more social media played a huge role in the devastation of my relationship with my kids. And he knew that. He called it his diary, but everything under the sun went in his diary. And
on social media?
On social media. So if, I would question something, or I would say something that I thought would be in confidence.
And he would blast it on social media?
He would blast it on social media for my kids to see. He knew that my kids looked. He knew that my,
he knew he had an audience?
Their friends looked. He knew that their parents looked. He knew that people who worked with my ex-husband looked. And
what was his purpose for doing that? What was he getting out of that?
Nothing was a secret. He didn't care what anybody knew, and he was fine with that. And he thought that my life needed to be the same way. And he felt that he was superior. There was an incident that happened to him when he was younger that paralleled something that happened within the city schools. And he took that and ran with it. And, and the thing was, he felt, and he controlled me enough that he told me, I think you should comment on what I posted. Don't you think you should say something? And so he would see all this, my kids would see all this, and of course some of it had to do with my ex-husband, which I knew the story from the beginning because it happened when we were married. And I was not going to say anything against what happened because I'm a person who stays quiet. I stay out of it. I don't broadcast things because it's not my space.
Especially on social media.
Yeah. But he would, everything. So when you go against your dad, their dad, and I felt like I had to support it, whether I said outright, yes, I support you, which I never did, but even commenting on it, they saw that. So I was giving him support. And it completely.
So was it a slow process where your kids stopped talking to you, or how did that unfold?
Yes. So at first we were going out to dinner. They were coming over to the house and I would make dinner. And it was very awkward. And then, so that's when we started to go out. So we'd go out once a week, to a restaurant, and then he would continue to post things and he would continue, it was all about respect. And he felt that he wasn't being given respect and I wasn't being given respect, but the respect wasn't being given to me.
So he was trying to parent your children.
Yes.
Yeah.
But over social media, not in person. And then it just kind of dwindled. And it was in a, terrible time. And it started, and then, football games. I would still go to football games by myself on Friday nights and watch them. They would come up and talk to me at the end. But, that even now, my youngest, he'll text me every once in a while. And then, he'll answer my texts. But like last night at the football game, he won't really even acknowledge me. And I don't want to push them, to do anything they don't want to do right now. But yeah.
I will say that is one thing that you immediately started to focus on was how were you going to rebuild your relationship with your children. And you have been ever since. And it's going to make me get teary-eyed. And as a mother, I know how a narcissist can get in the way of all of that. And I have spent the last, 5 years rebuilding not rebuilding, but just making sure that they understand everything that they went through was not healthy and not love. And we're working on that. So he didn't separate us, but he tried very hard. Yeah. So he's their father. In your case, it was just a boyfriend. So it's all real, though. They do the very, very best to separate. So I know you're in the process of rebuilding, and it takes time. But this is all very real, how these relationships cause a wedge in everything. Did it affect your friendships, too?
It did. And, some of them, I lost some friends. Completely. Some of them they've been following my story because I do post things on Facebook a little bit, and when I moved out, I'm starting fresh.
Yeah.
So a couple of them reached back out to me, and I just reached out to one other person that was
you mentioned
kind of my best friend, I guess you could say, for a long time, and both of them said, I saw what was happening to you, and we didn't want to make it worse, or I saw what my best friend was being put through. Yeah. And I just couldn't do it anymore.
on that note, like what you said earlier is about how you didn't understand what the word narcissist was. A lot of people are like that. They don't, even sometimes people in a narcissistic relationship, they don't understand what that is. And there are a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings around the abuse of a narcissistic relationship that, oh, well, you're not together anymore, so just move on.
Right.
Right? But they don't understand that the effects of all of that are sometimes lifelong. So what do you have to say about that? Like, what would you like people to understand that, yes, you're no longer in that relationship, but finish the sentence.
But it doesn't just go away.
Yeah.
You know,
healing is a process.
Absolutely. And just the fact that, you know, I lost my kids, it just lingers, and why I lost them. And PTSD is real.
For sure.
Nightmares,
yeah.
You know, still waking up and feeling like somebody's right there with you. Mm-hmm. And it's scary. It's like, where am I again? You know, and I am by myself, and that's where people don't understand that the nervous system and that the mind and the body has to catch up with all of that. Is that we might physically not be in that relationship anymore, but mentally our nervous system still remembers that. So we have to unlearn all of that. Right, and you have to learn to trust yourself again.
Yeah.
Because the whole process is to degrade you, to make you feel like you're worthless.
To doubt your reality.
To make a new reality that they want you to live in.
Yeah.
And you're in this little bubble, and you have to get out. And it's hard to get out once you've been so zoned in on what they wanted you, what they want your reality.
Even though you know on some level that it's not right.
Yes.
You're still so much in that you have to let this part of you grow a little bit more to offset all of that.
And I need to give an example of that, because, like, I know my kids. I know my ex-husband. I was married to him for 18 years, and we dated for 5 years before that. I know him. But yet the relationship said, you know, they won't love you anymore. They don't want anything to do with you. They don't respect you. You know, he and his family are completely against you. He is telling them to not have anything to do with you. And I knew
that wasn't right.
Deep down, that wasn't true. Mm-hmm. But because it's beat into you every day, it starts to be real. Mm-hmm. But then
their reality slowly becomes your reality.
Yes.
And then you're doubting yourself, but why do I feel this way?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's their whole tactic, is to doubt your reality.
Right. So you have to learn to get out of that.
Yeah.
And doubt, like, my dad was a general contractor. I grew up fixing things. I grew up around just simple household stuff. I know what I'm doing, and I know how to find answers. But I even doubt that sometimes. It's
so talking about all of that brings a lot of shame that we feel because we didn't trust ourselves, because we let these relationships affect our children, our friends, all of that. Let's start to untangle all of that shame. How have you been doing that?
It's been a process. I feel like I do have a little bit of closure on that part, but I still wrestle with shame every day.
I feel like it's
and I will.
I don't think I won't say now it's a lifelong process, but it's definitely a process until you understand everything that happened. The shame will be rooted there for a bit.
Right. And the only way I get through it right now is knowing that I was with a person who was seemingly violent, who had done things in the past to pay back, you know, people for what they had done.
Revenge.
To him. Revenge.
Yeah, my ex did that too.
He blasted it all over Facebook, so he was very unremorseful. He put fear in everybody, including me, about everything. I experienced, you know, he was accused of something, and he went to the brother's house and found them in their garage one day and just started screaming so that the whole neighborhood would hear what was going on. So all of this was in my mind. And I think once you're with
what he could do to you.
What he could do. And at that point, or at the end, I felt like it was all just threats, you know, but the fear was still there. I knew what he was capable of, or what I thought.
So basically you started trusting yourself more.
I did.
Okay.
But I also knew his tendencies.
Yeah.
So once you're with somebody for so long and you realize, oh, he's done that before, nothing came of it. So I started realizing that, but I didn't want to take that for granted. And, I stayed longer than I wanted to, but I did jump on the occasion that I had to in order to know that it was time. Like things just karma. I always say karma. Things fell into place, but I had to act on them.
Yeah.
And I was finally at that spot where I
had to make that
myself.
decision.
Yes, and I did.
Yeah.
So knowing that I waited as long as I possibly, I had to.
So that helped alleviate some of that shame.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And I knew I would be safe. I knew I did nothing to put myself or my kids
in danger.
Or my family in danger. We ended on a good note, and nothing would come back on me. So I still feel shame because it took as long as it did, but until I have any form of something with my kids back, that won't go away.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. The shame also is not ours. The shame that the relationship put on us. And then we feel that we should have known sooner. We shouldn't have let it come in between this relationship. I just reunited with a friend who my ex drove a wedge in between us for 5 years, and we reunited. And it's difficult. Not us getting back together difficult, but difficult to understand that we let that come in between us.
Right.
Then that's how powerful he was and wanted everybody to hate me.
Right.
And he tried to do everything he could. So, yeah, there was some shame for all of that. Like, even now, I wrestle with, like, wow.
Well, the shame for my kids. Like,
I was just about to say that. So, my kids, my daughter is going through counseling, and she was mad at me for a day for marrying him, and that's who her father is. And so I felt a lot of shame after that. And so there's a new level of shame now. And I had to explain why I made that decision when I was 21 years old. Like, no, it's not a decision I'd make today, but back then I wasn't in this frame of mind, right? So I have to release some of that shame, as I didn't know back then what I know now. And you don't know until you know.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Right.
And
right.
Like, you say, did I hide it? Absolutely. From the very beginning, even when we were just friends, before I moved into the house, there was a red flag. And I knew it wasn't right.
I know.
And I have shame for that. Why did I knew I could survive.
Yeah. But at that time, there was what we thought, there was no other choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then they know that, and they prey on that. And so it's a mixture of all of that. But the shame, that's what I mean about the shame, is not just ours. It's from them too,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So on that note, we're relearning, undoing all of those old conditioned thought patterns. How are you feeling now that you're out of it and that you're relearning love and joy and peace and healing and reconciliation and all of that?
Well, I'm learning to be alone. I have literally never been alone. From college, I met my ex-husband in college, and we dated through college and pretty much got married 1 to 2 years after I graduated. And I was married for 18 years.
Wow. So this is the first time you've been alone?
Yes. So being alone, trusting myself and loving myself, because, you get married, you love somebody else.
Yeah.
You have kids,
you're focused on everything else. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even know who I am sometimes. So I'm really learning what I like, what I don't like, what I want to do and what I really enjoy. Learn to trust myself too, trust my gut, trust my instincts, trust, and just not being afraid. It was a whole thing about looking somebody in the eye when I was dating this person. So going to a store, if somebody says something to me and it's a man, it's like I find myself, I'll talk, but I'll look away really fast. And it won't even be, it'll be...
It's harmless, something harmless, yeah.
It's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
The joy part has been very hard for me so far. All of this is still...
I feel like the joy is probably the last piece to feel.
Yeah.
You have to move through all of the other emotions first.
Yeah, because I mean, I find joy in my work. I find joy in helping others.
That's a good say. You have to find those pockets of joy, and then eventually those pockets get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't feel that I will be able to really enjoy or find joy in life
until your kids. I know. And we're going to say this on camera because it's going to happen.
I know.
Okay, so if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice, whatever age you want to give yourself advice, what would that advice look like? What would that be?
Trust your gut. And if it doesn't seem right, don't keep it inside.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody.
Yeah. Get it out.
Right.
Yeah. Talk to somebody you trust.
Because if your gut doesn't feel right, it's probably not right.
Yeah. All right, on that note, can we hug?
We can.
We did it.